Let's take a basic overview of the Singer SE9180 on the sewing side. So just going over some of the stitches, some of the settings, some of the function buttons that you are able to do. And then when we get to the embroidery side of this beautiful machine, we'll do the same thing, as everything here will change. So when you turn on the machine, you are going to see that you'll be on a straight stitch ready to go. There are tabs at the top that will get you to different categories of stitches, as well as realizing that what you see on the screen, there's multiple pages that you can scroll to, and these arrows will take you through all of them. Now, one of the things that we talk about throughout these videos is doing a stitch book. So just take some time, stitch out all your decorative stitches, and really help you get familiar with what is in the machine. Trust me, they look so much better stitched out. We'll put a link right up here of how to make a stitch book and what we're talking about. Now, every time you pick a stitch, you will notice that you will have the option to make it longer or shorter. Now, these numbers are millimeters, so it is something that, even though not everybody is used to millimeters, I think I've gotten more used to it because I sew, and the sewing machines have these functions. As we pick a zigzag, we will get a zigzag or stitch width, and this machine will go up to 7 millimeters wide. And if you take a look at the screen, do you see as I'm changing it, the stitch actually changes size as well. So if you're a very visual stitcher, you will be able to see this is exactly the size you're going to get. So which is something I love. I mean, students always ask me, well, what size is that going to be? I'm like, well, it's going to be that size. Or you can maybe make it a little narrow or a little shorter if you want. So just know that you can always change the settings for your stitches. And speaking of stitches, if you hop over to the tab with the number 2 on it, we're talking about decorative stitches, which is, by the way, something I really love to do. And I'm going to just show you, we are talking about on our Stitching Cosmos online course. So every block has a different sewing technique. And a lot of people ask me like, well, what else can I use my machine for? And we will reference that course quite a bit throughout these videos. And you'll be able to find that link to that course and watch a few videos for free to see if that course is right for you. So we take you into decorative stitches, using all these functions and not just talking about them, but actually putting them in practice. Now, speaking of online courses, we do have the 1-2 for your embroidery machine. So if you want to master all the wonderful things you can do with this machine, with the embroidery unit, that embroidery essentials course is also key to mastering every corner of this machine. Give you something to do while you're doing it. All right, tab 3, buttonholes. So again, as you pick a stitch, it will always tell you what foot to put on as you go. The 4th tab is actually lettering. So as you get into wanting to do maybe some quilt labels or put some personalization on something, you can go in, and as you can touch, you just get the letters ready to stitch out. And number 5 will be when you are ready to save things. That's where they will all go back to. To get out of the memory, go ahead and touch the top up here where it kind of looks like there's a group, and kind of highlight that, and then you'll be taken back to another stitch, and now you're back to just picking normal individual stitches. Along the bottom here we have the options for twin needle, so it will like double all the stitches that you are about to do. You can put in a twin needle and it will stitch just like it's showing. It's kind of showing a white and black stitch. It might be a little hard to see here, but it is actually something you can see before you start what it's actually going to look like. We have the option to have a cut button right here, and we have a button right here on the front of the machine. And as you just heard, it actually just cut the thread. You can pull it out. You have no bobbin thread when you're done, so you can just slide it back in. You don't have to worry about bringing that bobbin thread up or holding it. You can just start to sew. These are mirror images, so you can flip-flop the stitches left to right or up and down. I'm going to turn off that twin needle so it doesn't do anything for me there. And let's just get back to a straight stitch, stitch number 1 as we continue. So definitely experiment with these decorative stitches. Over here on the front of the machine, a speed adjustment, so sewing a little slower, or if you have a youngster sewing with you, this is a great way to have them sew. And instead of using a foot control, I might recommend that you have them touch the start-stop button and watch the speed of the machine. So you can see it's nice and planned, not racing away, they can use this button to stop it. They can use this button to cut and then start in a new position. So those are buttons that I have to say, kids, younger students are really keen on learning. It doesn't take much. And if they want to speed it up a little bit, you can find a happy middle to that part. So for today, we'll leave that at the full speed. So this button here, if you want to just sink the needle down into the fabric, just push it and it will just hold your fabric. I use that when I'm like turning a corner. So you can just lift and turn and pivot. And also too, if I'm working on something very heavy and the whole project is kind of very weighted, as I start and move that project to sew the next little bit, I like to have that needle stopping down. Then that way it's holding my line of stitching and it won't kind of give a little, like it won't pull out. So I do use that quite a bit when I'm sewing. So again, when you stop, again, just push the button and needle goes directly into the fabric. If you push it again, the needle comes up. And here's a trick about that. Instead of using this hand wheel over here to like turn and finish, which by the way, if you don't bring that needle all the way up and then bring the take up lever to the highest position, see how you can't see it? But now you can barely see it. Now you can. That's where it needs to be when you take your fabric out and put it back in. But if you just get in the habit of just always bringing your needle to the highest position with this button, you'll eliminate 95% of like sewing problems that people experience. So just kind of keep that in mind. Instead of turning the hand wheel, use the button. We also have some options down here for some settings. If you've noticed that I have actually turned off in the sewing settings the audio. So every time I touch the screen, you are not hearing it beep. That's a lot of beeping. And so I did quickly go in and turn that off. You can do the same. But I would leave on like the detect that the thread break option. So if you're sewing and there's thread breaks, it'll stop for you. Needle position up or down. Ooh, hey, that is there. Let's see if that will, when we sew. And oh, now we'll stop in the down position. Ah, there it is. I love it, love it. So you can actually go in here and do you want the machine to always stop up or always stop down? So that's actually in the settings. You'll want to go into there to activate that. And then tie off, where on certain stitches it will tie off automatically for you. We also have another tab that is more of machine settings where we can clear out some of the information in the background, that like the download information, restore everything to factory settings, and you could also give your machine a nickname. Touch the check mark to get out of that, and you're going to be back to where we started. So I hope you'll give yourself a little time to kind of familiarize yourself with the functions. We'll put a link below where all the YouTube videos are hanging out in their own playlist and in the order that would be best to watch them in. So just definitely take the time. Short videos to help you get started and master this machine from beginning to end.